Ladies and gentlemen, it is the perfect time to play some spooky and creepy games. So what we're going to do today is go over not 10, not 15, but 20 creepy Switch games that you should be playing right now. Let's go ahead and get right into the video. So when you think about stuff that's creepy or weird or unsettling, a few things may come to mind.
Oh no!
Oh no.
Yeah, probably not that. But when you think about Switch games that fall under that category, there's actually quite a few that are really good, and a lot of these kind of fall into that hidden gems category as well. So we're going to go over 20 creepy Switch games that you should be playing right now. Before we get started, if you could hit a like and subscribe, it would truly mean the world to me. And let's just go and get right into the video. So first, let's start with a game called Inside. Hunted and alone, a boy finds himself drawn into the center of a dark project. This is a dark, narrative-driven platformer, combining intense action with challenging puzzles. It has been critically acclaimed for its moody art style, ambient soundtrack, and unsettling atmosphere. And a cool thing about this game is it goes on eShop sales all the time. You can pick this game up regularly for like only $2. Let me just be the first to say, this game will surprise you. So whenever you think of the game Inside, there's another game that's pretty synonymous, and it's a game called Limbo. And if I'm not mistaken, both games are made by the same exact people. Uncertain of his sister's fate, a boy enters Limbo. Limbo is an award-winning indie adventure, critically acclaimed for its captivating puzzle design and immersive sound and visuals. And again, this game also goes on sale all the time for only like $2. So whether you're picking Inside or Limbo, you can't go wrong with either one. Now let's talk about Resident Evil 4. And when you think of creepy games or unsettling games, or spooky games I guess, there's one series that always is at the forefront, and that is Resident Evil. But Resident Evil 4, in my opinion, is the best Resident Evil game. And one major reason that I think that is because it's actually one of the few Resident Evil games I have played. The Nintendo Switch actually has quite a few Resident Evil games, but Resident Evil 4 is the one you should be playing. From the very moment you start this game, you understand why it's so special and why it's so good, and you can see why it became the legendary series that it's become. Now let's talk about a game called Faith, the Unholy Trinity. What you're about to do has not been approved by the Vatican. As a young priest, struggle against demons, insane cultists, and your own weakening faith in this pixel horror game inspired by the era of classic 8-bit gaming and the satanic scare of the 1980s. Haunted by nightmares and searching for answers, a young priest returns to the house where an exorcism went horribly wrong a year before. This game is really cool to me because it's capturing the essence of games from back in the day, but some way, somehow, it still turns out to be unsettling and creepy. This is another game you don't want to miss. An amazing game that came out this year is Emio the Smiling Man, Famicom Detective Club, and this fits this category perfectly. This was my very first Famicom Detective Club game I've ever played, and I instantly became a fan. Essentially what it is a visual novel mixed with like a true crime game, and just off that description, I was like, yeah, this game's probably not going to be for me. It's probably not going to be that engaging. But once I started playing this, I immediately fell in love with it, and it does get really unsettling at times. A great thing about this is you can play through the first 3 chapters for free. Like, you can download the demo and do that. So that's something you should definitely look into. Now let's talk about a game called Fatal Frame, Maiden of Black Water. Mount Hakame was once revered as a spiritual place. It housed a unique religion based on beliefs and customs of worshipping water as a deity, and it's said to have been a site of many gruesome incidents and mysterious phenomenon. This mysterious and intertwined stories follows 3 protagonists, as each of them explores this ominous place, where many come to die and secrets hide. I think the Fatal Frame series is over like 2 decades old at this point, and it's a legendary series for good reason. If you're looking for a fun horror game, then look no further than this. Now let's talk about a creepy game called Detention. Detention is a unique atmospheric horror game, heavily influenced by Taiwanese East Asian culture, religious elements, and mythology, based on the 1960s Taiwan under martial law. In this 2D atmospheric horror side-scroller, the player controls characters who venture into the school beset by hostile, supernatural events to uncover the stories behind this haunted place. This game actually gets pretty crazy. I think I picked this up around last Halloween, and yeah, I still think about this all the time. So now let's talk about a game called Carrion. And I've actually talked about this game quite a bit. I think I put it in a Hidden Gems video, I talked about it in an eShop sell video, and in every horror game or survival game, you always play from the perspective of somebody trying to survive, somebody trying to get away from danger. But in this game, you actually play from the perspective of the monster or the enemy, and it's your job to hunt down people and to get stronger. And I really do think it's such a cool way to play one of these games, so yeah, Carrion, play it. Now let's talk about a game called Tormented Souls. Play as Caroline Walker as she hunts for missing twin girls in a cavernous abandoned mansion. Can you control your fears and uncover the secrets of Winter Lake? Or will you die trying? Waking in the dead of the night, naked and hooked up to some kind of outdated medical equipment in a bathtub, Caroline must fight for her life as she explores the halls of the abandoned mansion. Even though this game falls under the whole survival horror category, I guess, this is also just a really good hidden gem. I absolutely love how it has this whole retro approach to it, and it's just a really neat game. Another creepy game that you should be playing is the Mortuary Assistant. And just the title, the Mortuary Assistant, that's gotta be one of the weirdest and creepiest jobs in the entire universe. Late one night, you're called into work to handle some embalmings. Death doesn't keep daytime hours. But there is something different about these bodies, because there's something different about you. The phone rings with a mortician on the other end. The rumors are true. You cannot leave. You need to perform embalming tasks while keeping demonic forces at bay. You also need to practice occult rituals to identify demonic entities. And I mean, do I really need to say more? This is the definition of a creepy, weird, unsettling game. Now let's talk about a game called Mad Father. In this horror adventure game, play as 11-year-old girl Aya Dravis and uncover the secrets of a bizarre incident that befalls the Dravis residence, where mechanical experiments are conducted night after night. To arrive at the truth, you need to make use of chainsaws, knives, hammers, and even bottles of eyeballs to explore every inch of the terrifying Mad Mansion. At first, just maybe off the graphics or the art style, you're like, okay, you know, it's trying to be creepy, right? Like, they have this whole narrative, they're trying to be weird and spooky, but the art style maybe just don't fit that. That's where you would be wrong. This game will surprise you. Whenever I think of creepy and scary games on the Switch, one of the first ones that comes to mind is Alien Isolation. When she left Earth, Ellen Ripley promised her daughter she would return home to celebrate her 11th birthday. But she never made it. 15 years later, Amanda Ripley learns that the flight recorder from her mother's ship has been recovered. Then Amanda enters the space station to finally solve the mystery of her mother's disappearance, only to confront an unknown menace. Not only is this one of the creepiest and scariest games on the Switch, it's actually one of the best Switch ports of all time, and I can't believe it looks and runs as good as it does, and I'm not exaggerating. I have heard from multiple people in person that this game got so scary that they couldn't finish it. So if you're looking for something to play that's going to have you on the edge of your seat, look no further than this. So I mean, even though this game technically isn't spooky or creepy, I have to mention it. I freaking love Luigi's Mansion 3, and when you're getting into the whole theme of playing these kind of games, this game fits perfectly. It just gets you into the mood of like Halloween and just creepy stuff in general. It's not scary, you know what I mean? But it's perfect. This is a perfect game. And one of my favorite things about this is because you're in this giant mansion or hotel, I think. Every floor has its own theme, and every floor has its own challenges, and it almost feels like their own separate games. This is one of my favorite Switch games of all time. Not only that, I think this is one of the best looking Switch games of all time. And it's crazy because it came out multiple years ago, and it looks like something that could have came out today or something. So Luigi's Mansion 3, while it's not spooky or scary, it's going in this video. And I don't care, I'll fight you over that. So all three Bioshock games are on the Switch, and they're all remastered, and all three games are good. But when you're talking about like weird and creepy and unsettling and spooky, I think Bioshock 1 fits that perfectly, and I'm not sure if we'll ever have another game that makes you feel the way you do when you play through this game. Bioshock 3 is my favorite Bioshock game, But I can't lie, like that very first hour when you start playing Bioshock 1 for the very first time, and you're starting to see what everything is, and you're starting to explore, and you're getting into the setting, I don't think another game has ever made me feel that way. I truly felt like I was experiencing something very unsettling, something that I shouldn't be a part of, something that I shouldn't be experiencing. There's a million reasons why the Bioshock series is considered a masterpiece. Now let's talk about a game called World of Horror. The old gods are reawakening, clawing their way back into a world that's spiraling into madness. In hospitals, abandoned classrooms, quiet apartments, and dark forests, strange appearances and unexplainable phenomena test the sanity of the residents of Shiokawa, Japan. Is it chaotic retribution, or is it beings beyond our comprehension? The end of the world is near, and the only solution is to confront the terror reigning over the apocalypse. And I could be wrong, and I might be getting this game confused with another game, but I'm pretty sure all the art in this entire game was made on MS Paint. Do you know how hard that would be to try to make something like this? I wonder what would happen if I try to do a creepy drawing on MS Paint. Now let's talk about a game called MADiSON. What would you do if you woke up locked in a dark room, with your hands covered in blood, your sister and mother massacred? MADiSON is an immersive and terrifying first-person psychological horror game, featuring disturbing gameplay and an unsettling and compelling narrative. With the help of a possessed instant camera, connect the human world with the beyond, solve puzzles, explore your surroundings, and most importantly, survive. Throughout your journey, you are haunted by MADiSON, the ghost of an evil murderer, who is forcing you to continue a gory ritual started decades ago, and to commit horrible acts. She wants you to finish her sinister ceremony. Do you have the strength to resist? So I mean, at this point in 2024, there's legit thousands of horror games, and they kind of all have their own gimmick or their own thing going for them, because you really do need to separate yourself from all the other horror games. I hate using the word gimmick, but the whole, I guess, camera mechanic in this game really does add to the adventure, so MADiSON is another must-play horror game. Now let's talk about a game called Saturnalia. This is a third-person roguelike horror adventure, where you play as 4 characters, experiencing an intergenerational storyline tied to the haunting traditions of an ancient village in Sardinia, Italy. This is a region rich with unique folklore. The village itself is an elaborate maze, with no 2 iterations being precisely the same. You will have to explore and solve the mysteries of the game, largely unguided. When you die, you will watch the village reconfigure itself into a new form, solve puzzles and open shortcuts to new areas with tools and items you find along the way, unlocking every piece of the story with different characters. Like, yeah, this is another cool, spooky, creepy game. But not only that, this game is just great on its own. Like, even if you're not into that category of gaming, you're probably going to enjoy this. And it has one of the coolest and weirdest art styles I have ever seen in any game pretty much ever. Now let's talk about a newer game called Fear the Spotlight. Fear the Spotlight is an atmospheric, third-person horror adventure with a disturbing mystery to unravel. Sneak into school after hours with Vivian and Amy, survive a seance gone wrong, solve tactical puzzles, and whatever you do, stay out of the spotlight. When Vivian enters the deserted corridors for a seance with a rebellious Amy, she suddenly ends up alone, and at the mercy of a monster who wanders the halls. Vivian must avoid its gaze, find her friend, and uncover the disturbing, murderous truth of a decades-old tragedy. This is a love letter to classic 90s horror experiences, with focus on rich storytelling, puzzle solving, and a tense atmosphere. And even though this is a pretty new game, like, this came out October 22nd, I believe, I think this is one that's going to be remembered for a very long time. Now let's talk about a game called White Knight. Explore the past of an old mansion in the 1930s and solve puzzles of light and shadows in this fully black and white survival horror game. Players are trapped in this nightmare, where darkness is a constant threat. You need to collect matches to light your way to reveal the next passage. Avoid apparitions to continue your search for answers. The unique art style engrosses the player in the tone of film noir. This kind of doubles back to what I was saying earlier, that like, there's so many horror or spooky games that they kind of all just mash together, so you kind of have to have that gimmick to stand out. And once you have that quote unquote gimmick, that's kind of the identity of the game, and it will either work or it won't. In this game, it works perfectly. And the last spooky game we're going to talk about today is Darkwood. Darkwood is a challenging survival horror that does not rely on jump scares, craft weapons, prepare traps, fortify hideouts. You will explore and scavenge the eerie forest of the Soviet bloc by day, then hunker down in your hideout at night, with nightmarish forces corrupting the woods. Wait and pray for the sun to come up the next morning, and dive into the creepiest secrets of its inhabitants to escape the infested land before it destroys your body and consumes your mind. And if you like a good challenge, then you're going to love this game, because there is no hand-holding. You test your skills and figure out everything on your own. You also need to develop your character by injecting a strange essence into your bloodstream. So Darkwood is another game you don't want to miss. Ladies and gentlemen, there was 20 spooky, creepy, scary horror games. Well, 19 plus Luigi's Mansion 3, but hey, I will defend Luigi's Mansion 3 being in any video ever till the ends of times. In the comments below, as always, let me know your thoughts and opinions. Let me know your favorite creepy, spooky horror games, whether it be on the Switch or just in general. If some way, somehow you've made it to this part of the video, just know I truly appreciate your support. It means the world to me. And follow me on Instagram because we're growing over there and that's pretty cool. And you guys know me, I will see you very soon with a new video. Peace out.